Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to today's Sumo Logic webinar, How to Improve Your MTTI, MTTR with a Single Click. This presentation is being recorded and you are currently in a listen-only mode. However, we do encourage you to type your content-related questions or quick technical or logistical feedback at any time by using the chat pane on the right-hand side of your screen. Before we begin today, I'd like to introduce you to our speakers, Matt, Amel, and Vladimir Lewis. Matt is a member of our product management team focusing on our advanced analytics features. Vladimir joins us from the customer success team where he helps to ensure that our customers get the most out of their data in Sumo Logic. Without further ado, I'm happy to pass it over to our presenters. Matt, you have the floor.
Oh, and welcome to LogCompare Tech Chat. As Kyla mentioned, my name is Matt Amel. I'm a member of product management team responsible for advanced analytics. Today's presentation is about Sumo Logic's machine learning technologies, specifically LogCompare and LogReduce, and how it enables you to substantially reduce your mean time to repair and mean time to investigate. The agenda today is as follows. First, I will go through and describe what we mean by log analytics, just to set the stage. Second, I will discuss the kind of complex problems that motivated us for this innovation. Then I will cover how machine learning and specifically LogReduce and LogCompare address those problems. I will also discuss the use cases and benefit, and then my colleague Vladimir will give you a demo of LogCompare. And finally, we will have a Q&A session. Let's start with describing what we mean by log analytics. Basically, log analytics is about the technology that enables you to digest logs from many different sources and turning it into operational and business insights. Sumo Logic is at the forefront of this technology, and not only as a technology, but also as a user. So you may not know, but Sumo Logic is one of the largest customers of Amazon AWS. The amount of data we host for our customers grows by 1 petabyte every 2 weeks. That's no trivial amount of data. And as you might imagine, this infrastructure is managed on a massive and highly distributed infrastructure consisting of many open source, commercial, and in-house developed components and apps. And again, as you know, maintaining such an infrastructure is not an easy task. Of course, not everyone has a similar amount of data. A typical customer of ours could easily have a 50 gigabyte per day ingestion rate. And if you break it down, that is over 1 million events per second that we are ingesting for those customers. And we have customers whose daily ingest rate is easily 10 times or even 100 times that. And basically, the kind of problems that we are trying to solve are as follows. First, in case of a failure, we want to know what was the cause and how we can prevent that from happening again. And second, if there are major changes, let's say you deployed a major patch or a new version of your operating system, you want to make sure that even though things are normal, you want to guarantee that nothing is broken. And as you know, log data has this wealth of information about your health of the systems and your infrastructure, and that's why it is very important to be able to intelligently digest that and make sense out of that. And here at Sumo Logic, we live with those challenges at a very significant scale. In fact, Sumo Logic is one of the largest customers of Sumo Logic. Our daily ingest rate is very similar to some of our largest customers. So in this environment, our IT operations and DevOps are constantly faced with questions like, what was different in pattern of logs before a recent service alarm? Or what was changed in log pattern before and after a release? Or how is this recent deployment different from the previous deployment? Also, you want to know what are the differences between two deployment, two installation, two nodes even within the same cluster, or two different clusters. So it is the comparative intelligence that enables you to analyze the situation if it is abnormal, or be preventative and try to understand if something is going to break later. So for these type of challenges, there are different ways to answer those questions. We have tremendous search and live tail capability. And the search, even though it is, people look at search very sort of simplistically, it is a fairly complex task. I mean, imagine ingesting many different sources at very high rate, as I mentioned, millions or even billions of events per second, and you want to search and make it available. We recently released LiveTail, which enables you to track a stream of log in real time. These two capabilities are very good when you have the problem search space is fairly small. And when you know a specific keywords or a specific transaction ID or session ID for which you are looking to track a problem, and that's very that sort of reduces your search space and enables you to find potentially the issues. However, it is not always the case. When you're dealing with much larger space, you need something, or you need machine capabilities to help you achieve that, and that's LogReduce. What we do with LogReduce is, first of all, LogReduce is Sumo Logic's unique and registered machine learning technology, and it intelligently clusters the logs into patterns and signatures. So instead of tens of patterns, tens or hundreds of thousands of logs, you only deal with a few pages of patterns. It extracts meaningful patterns from your logs and condenses this log space without ignoring any data. So it doesn't select, it doesn't search. It condenses the log space into meaningful and intelligent patterns. In a nutshell, it reduces the search space considerably without eliminating or ignoring the any of your data. And this is a great technology, and our customers love it. And that's what made us go a step further and build on top of that machine learning technology. And here I'm introducing LogCompare. So what does LogCompare do? Well, we talked about search, and with a specific, if you have specific keywords, you reduce billions of logs into millions of logs, and then use LogReduce to tens of patterns. But what you can do now is to answer questions, as I mentioned before, either investigating an alarm or being preventive and looking if something is normal. This is the first use case that somewhere in your infrastructure that happens, and you are trying to do root cause analysis. First thing you do, query all related information about that particular event right before the time that that event occurred. Try to identify logs and events that may have led into that failure. Now, with LogCompare is to compare the events with a similar normal period that didn't cause any failure and see what has changed. It could be the day before, if you have a daily cycle, or a week before, if you have any combination. So what are the benefits of this technology? And we will go through it in the demo, and you will see how it works. But the main benefits are that it enables you to do troubleshooting much faster and be able to do more effective root cause analysis and drill down to the cause of any potential problem or any already occurred problem. Also, it can act as early warning system by when you are trying to be preventive, and upon deploying a major change or a patch or a new app or a new version of app, you want to see if that may cause a problem later. So without further ado, let me pass the button to my colleague Latimer for a demo of LogCompare.
Great, thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Just going to confirm here that you guys can see my screen, and it looks like you can. So I'm going to go ahead and just walk you through the demonstration of both LogReduce and LogCompare. But I know many of you who are on the call may never have seen sort of what Sumo Logic does and the search page within Sumo Logic. So I want to quickly walk you through the UI aspect of Sumo and then dive into the details here. And I'll spend about 5 or 10 minutes just walking you through some of the use cases for how you would use LogCompare. So this is the UI for our search screen. This is something you're going to spend about 90% of your time on. Once you have access to Sumo Logic and you set up your account, this is typically where you're going to spend most of your time. On the top left-hand side here, you'll notice that I can go and type in a specific query that I want. And this is very sort of Google-like, right? So I can have keywords that I look for, like search for exception, and I can hit the start button here on the top right-hand side of the screen to invoke my query. And so now it's going to look across all of my logs for the words error or exception, and you can see that about 12 pages of information have been pulled up. The results are shown below. I can also modify the time frame in which I'm searching for. So if I wanted to go and do a broader search over the last 3 hours or 60 minutes, I can do so fairly easily. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select last 3 hours, and you can see that the number of pages and the number of results obviously have increased. So now I have 297 pages of exceptions and errors to really scroll through, which can be pretty daunting, right? I mean, in the past, you'd probably have to go through these exceptions and errors one by one. But with the introduction of log reduction, I can go ahead and click this button, and it will distill all this information down to just a series of patterns. And you can see that these signatures are identified within your logs. And I can see how many times each of these signatures have appeared across all my logs. Okay, so it gets you to a really unique set of information really, really quickly, and you can find sort of that needle in a haystack. You can do sorting based off of count, right? So if I sort by in ascending order, I can find some of those errors or exceptions that I may not have known it had existed. All right. So one thing our service offers as well is the ability to throw these searches into panels on particular dashboards. So you can see here, I built sort of an overview dashboard that provides me insight on how well my system or my application is running across all different types of measures, right? So this is all quantitative information. Whereas when we're looking at signatures, that's more sort of qualitative, right? I mean, it distills information down into a unique series of patterns and signatures. But here I can see when things sort of spike up. And this is where I would want to probably do some investigative type of activities. Like I noticed that my security event distribution is sort of up and down, right? There are peaks and valleys. Is this normal? I don't know, and I think this is where LogCompare can really help you identify whether or not this is a normal pattern, or if these spikes and peaks and valleys are one-off. So I can see here, if I hover over the 6 a.m. period, there's a really big spike, right, compared to the surrounding or the adjacent time frame. So maybe I want to go in and run a search to figure out, okay, why or what events had occurred during this time frame, and compare this to something that happened yesterday, or to the events that happened yesterday, or to events that happened a week before. I'm going to close out of this magnification view, go back to my search window. Luckily for me, I created something, or created a search that I can go and point back to. If I go into my library, which basically allows me to save searches that I've executed in the past, and made it easily pull it up again for the future if I needed to. I have one called Event Distribution Security, which basically represents the same search that you saw on the dashboard, except it's only focused on the security events. So once I pull this up and I search over the last 24 hours, I should see a similar pattern of events. Okay. And what I would want to do is run a LogCompare. And I think we mentioned earlier that at 6 a.m. today, between 6 and 7, there was a spike. So you can see that not only can I choose predefined timeframes, I can also override that with something more specific. So if I want to look at a specific date or a specific time, I can type that in and hit the start button and get results relatively quickly. So everything that'll show, everything shown on the bottom of the screen here reflects all the events that occurred between this hours of 6 and 7 this morning. If I do a LogCompare over the events that occurred, between or for the same time frame that occurred yesterday, I can see whether or not there was a change in the patterns or signatures. Okay, one thing I want to point out is that there is an anomaly score here, and I can rank the changes based off of this anomaly score. I noticed that there is an event that occurred yesterday but did not occur today. So you could see that there was nothing of this particular signature that occurred between 6 and 7. So that was removed. There was one new pattern. And you can see that there were also changes, right? I see this pattern occurring 32% less today than it did yesterday. And there's nothing that really jumped out at me, which means, hey, that spike that I saw between 6 and 7 was actually normal, right? There's not this anomaly score, or these anomaly scores that I'm seeing are pretty low, which means that, yeah, the events that I'm seeing today is something that is expected. And I can do the same for the events that occurred for the same time frame a week ago. And just to verify that nothing has changed week over week, I can look at the anomaly score and, oh, well, there's actually one or a couple of big changes from this week and last week. So something may have occurred that I need to investigate over this 1 week time frame. Okay, so that's one way that you can use LogCompare, and that would be the investigative type of use case. Prior to joining Sumo, I was actually a project manager for a company that distributed, enterprise software. And oftentimes on my projects, we would do, large-scale type of releases as well as implementations. And, I wish I had Sumo Logic at the time, because it would have made my job a lot easier, especially with respect to sort of understanding and being able to prevent some of the large outages that ran into. And so one of the things that I think would really help me as a project manager is understanding whether or not the deployments that we did were done correctly, right? And so what I can actually do, right, is create a custom LogCompare event, and this is all theoretical, right? let's say that you just did a deployment to your production servers, and let's say you have maybe 2 app servers redundancy. And you probably have more, but in this scenario, we'll only look at 2 different errors. So again, we're only looking at errors and exceptions. What's really cool about LogCompare is you can look at 2 different sources or 2 distinct sources for the same time frame. So I can have a time shift of 0 hours, meaning I want to look at the same exact time range, and I'm going to go and look at the last 3 hours of events. So let's say that my deployment to production had occurred 3 hours ago. I want to see all the errors and exceptions and compare them between these 2 sources. So now I just want you to imagine like the results, right? If you see that there's a large number of increases for a particular error message, the chances are that maybe the deployment of the code on app 1 or app 2 or any one of these apps was done incorrectly. And so that's why I'm saying if I had Sumo Logic when I was a project manager, this would have made my life a lot easier, because then I could have done my QA testing immediately after deployment, and rather than sending out an email saying, hey, deployment's all done, and receiving some blowback from the customer, I could have saved some of that frustration on both the customer's end and my end by doing some spot checking ahead of time, right? So this really is a way to do some of these, include some of these preventative measures at the time when you're doing your deployment, right? So the other thing you can do is you can look at errors and exceptions before and after a deployment. So let's say the deployment occurred 3 hours ago. I can do a time shift of, let's say, 4 hours and compare, a 15-minute time frame, that occurred in the last 15 minutes and 4 hours prior to that, so that I know that, some of the errors that I was hoping to erase by this new release or by this patch was actually addressed. Okay. So those are some of the type of things that you can consider using LogCompare for. It's a really, really powerful tool, and hopefully this demonstration really showed that.
Thank you, Latimer. So, use and LogCompare. We said that LogReduce a whole lot of data. In this case today on our production environment, and as you can see, count here is pretty high, so this data happens to be much more repetitive than the kind of log messages that you are dealing with. But nonetheless, this is a good representation of how you can condense such a big search space into digestible intelligence. And also we discussed LogCompare, that looks at the changes in your environment, and Latimer showed how you do it by 1 click, but also there's our query language supports it, and then orders the changes based on their anomaly score. So the machine learning technology indicates what change was more anomalous, was least expected. And that way you can easily drill down to that particular pattern and potentially the system that caused it. So, what is LogCompare? LogCompare is essentially extending LogReduce, our machine learning technology of pattern extraction from massive log space, and enabling you to do temporal and spatial comparison, either before release and after release, or as Latimer demoed, between 2 healthy server and unhealthy server, or deployment or cluster, or what have you. And that concludes our presentation today, and I can answer some of the questions you may have.
All right, we're going to start off with some of the questions that you guys have sent in. First question we have is, does LogCompare work on any of the logs across my entire environment?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, that's a value add from Sumo Logic, that you take, you ingest logs from every layers of your infrastructure: network, security, middleware, operating system, apps, database, and you name it. And you are able to track across all of these and apply our technology across your the event from all of your infrastructure.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
That was a good question, by the way.
All right, other question we have is, are you able to schedule LogCompare queries similar to other types of queries?
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. In fact, that's a great question. And yes, not only you can do that, but there are built-in sort of quantitative values based on which you can schedule alarms to be sent. So what we showed briefly, and that's not the only one, but basically you saw the count and you saw the anomaly score column. So you can schedule search and run this LogCompare on a scheduled basis and say, if anomaly score is more than certain things, alert me. And that you can have multiple alerts. You can have escalating alert. For example, if anomaly score is less than 9, let's say, but larger than 5, then send an email. But if it is above 9, maybe you want to create a pager duty alert. So there is a lot of power in this service that we provide.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I believe that concludes all of our questions. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to type them in right now. But other than that, if you have any questions, like I mentioned, you can either type them in or you can contact us at webinars@sumologic.com. I'd like to thank our presenters once again, Matt and Latimer, for joining us today. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining us as well. We hope to see you on another webinar soon. Now disconnect.